This is one of the most fascinating conversations I've ever had. My world is being blown apart. Hey everybody, welcome back to Cooper Stuff. Okay, as a lot of people know, and I've seen some comments as well, people have been bringing up what is going on in Nigeria with Christians. There's all sorts of stuff out there, and I will confess that I am quite ignorant about the subject, but I care just like a lot of you guys care. And long story short, we've got a really cool guest on who I did not know until we booked this interview. We've only spoken for about 3 minutes prior to the interview, but I think this is going to be very, very interesting, and a lot of people want to know what's going on. So we're going to welcome to the show for the first time, Mike Arnold. Mike, why don't you tell us who you are and kind of like why you're here, and then we're going to jump in. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions.
All right. Thank you so much. I am just a country boy from the hill country of Texas. Recently former mayor of the city of Blanco, a little small town here. I'm a missionary. I've been called to Africa since 2010, 16 trips, mostly extended trips, been all over the country. Starting in 2019, I stumbled into what's called an IDP camp. It's a refugee, it's internally displaced person in the middle of their modern capital city. Nothing could prepare you for what's there. It's sewage ditches, hand-built shanties, just packed with people, good people that are not there by their own choice. They're victims. These are people that survived massacre. We saw most horrific things, and their stories of survival just kill you. I mean, it's amazing. And stumbled into this camp. The Holy Spirit led us there. And since then, I've been back, counting that trip 7 times since 2019. Occasionally at level 4, do not travel, red flag, combat zone warnings from the State Department, don't go, and we'd go. But been across the front lines of what is the largest Christian genocide on earth. More Christians are martyred there than anywhere else in the world, times 10. Most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian. God's used me with a video camera and just going where I'm not supposed to be to uncover a whole lot of what's going on there. Most recently, just by the grace of God, a press conference that I did in Abuja, the capital there, about 1 month ago, flipped the global narrative from 80% denial to 7% affirmation within 72 hours, and is credited with prompting Donald Trump's intervention. So God used a country boy, led me to the middle of a refugee camp, and gave me a calling to tell their story. And in doing so, it's shaken the world.
And I just want to reiterate this because it's pretty incredible. A lot of, I think, normal people here on the show, I call them normies. This is people who don't sit around watching the news constantly. It's just normal people. They're going to work and they're doing the thing. A lot of us only heard of this very recently because of President Trump. And I just want to reiterate this. You are the reason probably that this was made so aware to so many normal people. Can you explain that one time? Because you went through it so briefly. And I want to make sure people understand that. That is a pretty incredible feat. Explain how that happened.
Well, first, a lot of people, smarter, better, more funded than me have been trying to raise awareness on this for 6 years. I've been talking to church groups and Rotary clubs and stuff, trying to get people to pay attention to this for a long time. A lot of people have been doing that. I consider myself like Balaam's donkey. God just spoke through me on this one.
I like that.
It's an interesting story how it got to that point. Sort of a date with destiny. Mind if I unpack a little bit?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So one of my trips, again, it's been in one stretch, 12-month stretch, I was in Africa 4 times. So it's been, my life is centered on this for the last several years. I read a book written by somebody who had been a presidential advisor in Nigeria. I had some questions, contacted the guy through a website, and he called me back on WhatsApp. On that call, 30-minute call, he invited me. This was just last year. He invited me to his birthday safari in Kenya, and he paid my way. And with some of the titanic figures in Nigeria. And just for some reference, Nigeria is the largest black nation on earth. It's the sixth largest nation on earth. It's one of the top 5 oil exporting countries on earth. It's significant. It's got 200 million people. The wealthiest and most educated people in America are Nigerian Americans. It's an amazing place with so much potential and such vibrant faith. I mean, real faith. I believe it's the front line of the kingdom come. So it's an important place strategically, not just today, but for the future. And so I'm here at this birthday safari with these titans of Nigeria. It's crazy. God put me there. The person whose birthday party it was, the guy that wrote this book, ends up, he was the #1 influencer of the year in Africa, according to Business Insider that year. He was former vice president, international politics for Joe Trippi and Associates, big PR, political consulting firm. This guy's a major player, and he's the right hand man for PR to the president of Nigeria. He's the spin doctor. He's the political fixer for the president of Nigeria. And I got to know him fairly well over the last year. He visited me at my hometown in Blanco, and he opened so many doors for me. All my friends were cautioning me, and my antenna were up, but I knew God had a purpose for it. He was grooming me as a PR asset. He introduced me to former presidents and all these important people as this influential mayor of Texas, and he was and my being headlines there and stuff, and he was puffing me up to be able to use me someday. And that day was a month ago. So I never thought I'd say thank God for Bill Maher. But thank God for Maher. It was Bill Maher that started talking about this about 6 weeks ago that put it on the radar.
I
Bill
saw
Maher
that.
Yeah. And so a little over a month ago, I got a call, Sunday morning Bible study from this PR guy, the fixer for the president of Nigeria, and the national security advisor of the nation of Nigeria. Now, this guy it commands not only the military, but also the security apparatus. He's next to the president, most powerful man in Nigeria. And everybody says the most dangerous man in Nigeria, too. This guy's on the phone. And I'm in a buggy barn Bible study in Blanco, Texas, with a bunch of old guys eating biscuits and gravy. And this guy calls me and it says, "Oh, it's urgent. Can you come over here? Can you help us? Come do a fact-finding tour and tell the world the truth." And my God, I don't know why they thought I was going to stand there and lie about genocide. It's the basis for why I connected with these people in the first place, was investigating this. But they expected me to parrot their talking points. And so 1 week later, they call me out of the blue. A week later, I'm on a plane flying to Nigeria. This was a month ago. And I knew it was a North Korea Soviet-style stooge tour. And I knew it was extremely dangerous. God's given me some good advisors. I actually updated my will and had a farewell dinner with my family before I left, because there was estimated about 25% chance I'd be killed for what I was about to do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I figured that, I'm old. My friends are dying. I can't think of a better reason to be called home than exposing a genocide. If that's what got me killed, I could live with that, if you know what I mean. And so it gave me great peace. And I had prepared. It's a long. It deserves its own movie, to be honest with you. It really does. It was like Argo, all the twists and turns. Trying to get to this press conference, they set up a meeting with this phony chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria that gave these talking points. So I'd been on the plane 30 hours. I hit the ground. The driver gives me the talking points. Get to the hotel. They walk me straight into this room for a photo op. No bathroom break. No cup of water. Nothing. A photo op. First thing. I begged 30 seconds. Put on a blazer. And this one. And then after this phony Christian Association of Nigeria guy leaves, they lead in 3 imams from northern Nigeria that all have terror ties. The guy sitting next to me, former minister of communication, had publicly said, "We all celebrate, of course, when non-believers are being killed." And I'm sitting next to this guy for a photo op. 30 hours in the air, no break. photo op with this guy. They're giving me the talking points. One of my advisors said, don't get yourself in a compromising photographic position. So when we stood up for the pictures, I don't mean to offend anybody, but that's what I did. I was doing this on camera for the photo op. So they haven't been able to use those pictures. Then they take me from this photo op, same hotel complex, to the set of primetime live interview program, top show in Nigeria, and set me on the set with no break, with the countdown started already for a live nationwide interview. And this PR guy tries to trap me during that interview, and God gave me a way to navigate. Get to the press conference the next day, and they're expecting me to parrot these talking points. All the press is there, and I pull out my report, and I have staff there that hands the report to all the journalists. It downloads my dead man switch triggers, and 4 o'clock West African time, it publishes online. I had a few people in the crowd live streaming for life insurance, and I had the professional videographer in with the press pool. And so, of course, absolute shock and horror on the other side, and some literally most dangerous people in the world were sitting there with me. And now I'm pretty sure there's a fatwa against me, and that's not a joke. But God had allowed me to manipulate the situation. I got out of the press conference, got in a vehicle, drove to the airport, and flew home, just like that. And midway there, I uploaded the video and started posting this stuff. I left Nigeria. I had 114 Twitter followers. Over the Atlantic, my phone starts buzzing and it won't stop. I have to shut it off because it's getting hot. My first post gets over 2 million interactions with 12,000 reposts within days. I'm now by far the most famous American in Nigeria. Every podcaster, every influencer, every journalist, every host, that's all they're talking about, and has been for weeks. It's crazy. I tweet something, it becomes a headline the next day. The Sultan of Sokoto, who's the Pope and King of 108 million radical Muslims in West Africa, who's likely the Hitler behind this Holocaust, he has name-checked me in public. So it's just gone crazy. Flip the narrative. And then a couple of weeks later, Trump steps in and takes action, and everybody that's high up says, yeah, that not me directly, but the narrative flip is what prompted him.
This is absolutely insane. All right, so I think because I'm not really a good interviewer, I think that I need to go backwards now. I should have started with this because you just mentioned this, and some people might not know because you keep saying the narrative flipped, and some people might not know what we're talking about. So part of the issue, as I've understood it, and enlighten me and my audience, please. Part of this is that even me, I've been hearing for years that this is going on, but you never know if it's real or to what extent that it's real. And it seems like, and again, please correct me, it seems like that there are even forces in the media that have tried to act like that it wasn't, or that it was being overstated. And, I read a BBC article on it even recently after Trump said something, and that BBC article was trying to kind of act like, oh, there's not really anything to see here. And of course, a lot of people, a lot of normie people have learned since 2020 what we should have learned probably a long time before that, which is that we don't really trust what big media is telling us anyway. So my understanding is that the media was kind of keeping this on the hush hush. Maybe other forces were as well. You tell me. And now the narrative is beginning to flip, and even people that might have thought that you were crazy for saying something like this, or that other people that came before you were crazy for saying like this, even they are beginning to recognize, oh, this is a real thing. Am I understanding that correctly?
Absolutely. And I was the expert that was brought in by the government of Nigeria with business class tickets and a red carpet to do a fact-finding mission and declare the truth to the world.
Oh, man. So they're bringing you in as the useful idiot, thinking that you're going to
I was the stooge.
The stooge. That's what you mean when you say that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was the guy that was supposed to go to the Soviet Union and look, it's a beautiful park and the store is full and everybody's smiling.
Got it.
And 1 block away, they're all getting shot to death. That I was that this was a stooge.
Oh my gosh, this is so bananas.
Yeah, that's why I thought I might get killed. And it was very likely. If I had stayed around much longer, I might not have made it home. God allowed me to get out immediately. But yeah, I was that guy. I was the stooge that the Nigerian government had been puffing up as this expert to come in and be doing a fact finding tour and
Yeah.
come out with this report. That's
And
what
can,
happened.
and can I ask you this? When did this begin? Is this like 2009, 2010? Is it before then? When does this begin?
Okay, my first trip to Nigeria was in 2010. At that point in time, it was the only nation on earth where radical Islam was being pushed back. So what? Here, let me tell you, this is, I think, going to be the biggest story in the world in the coming months. So many major nefarious forces from China to Great Britain, and ISIS and Al Qaeda, Obama. They all have their hand in the Nigerian cookie jar. There's $1 trillion in minerals on the line there. There's also a very vibrant young population that's well educated that can either be radicalized or rise up as a breakthrough of the kingdom. I mean, there's so much at stake there. Let me back up just a hair so you can understand the complexity. Nigeria was never a colony. It was never a British colony. It was two extraction corporations. It was a business venture for Great Britain
Hmm.
to extract the minerals from there. And there was the North and the South. The North is Sharia law Muslim, radical Sharia law Muslim built on jihad. So there's the Fulani tribe came out of the Sahara, brought radical Islam with them. One of the first waves of Islam. I mean, this was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. They set up as warlords there in 1804. The first Sultan of Sokoto, the Sokoto Caliphate, um, created what is called the largest pre-colonial empire in African history. And it was through jihad, through genocide. This guy from northern Nigeria conquered a huge portion of West Africa. The Sokoto Caliphate, 19 generations ago. The British come in and extracting the minerals there, and it is one of the top 5 oil-producing nations on Earth. They've got lithium, they got gold, they've got diamonds, they got rare earth elements, they got tin, which is actually worth more than lithium. They got all this stuff, and the British and they got at the time they had slaves and they had palm oil and all this stuff too. And Great Britain set them up as extraction corporations. Their strategy throughout history has been indirect rule. They find the totalitarian rulers and they co-opt them. And so Great Britain propped up the Sultan of Sokoto and the traditional radical Sharia law structure, and they made that their allies. And they worked through this, and they do this all over the world. On the South is the Christians. The South is the ones that learned to speak English, that went to school in England, that embraced the Christian faith, that ran the whole bureaucracy, all that stuff. The Friends of Great Britain versus the radical Muslims, North and South. Well, when Great Britain gave them their independence in the middle of last century, in the late 50s, early 60s, they just lumped this together and called it Nigeria. They are not compatible, and they knew it, but that's Britain's strategy. Indirect rule, keep them fighting, keep them declining, and then loot the minerals. That's what they have done all over the world. That's their history. There was finally it went back and forth in a civil war. The South tried to break away. The Friends of Great Britain, the Christians, the English speakers versus the totalitarian jihadis. Great Britain backed the jihadis in the Biafran War. This was concurrent with our Vietnam War, so we never heard about it. Great Britain did a blockade of the South Nigeria, and more than 2 million people starved to death because of Great Britain's blockade, and they called it a tactic to get them to the table sooner. Great Britain starved, during our Vietnam War, starved 2 million Africans, mostly children, to death, so they could keep this nation of Nigeria that they created together, so they could keep control over it and extract the minerals. So that's a big thing. They created this thing. And then they killed a whole bunch of people to keep it together. But that's been the state of it. The North has control over the federal structure. There's sham elections, but the wrong guy wins. There's a revolution and they put the right guy back in. So they keep control of it. In 2010, a Christian ended up being president of Nigeria. He sort of like stumbled into it. It was an interesting situation. And he was actually making reforms. This is when he was pushing radical Islam back, and they couldn't take it. So Barack Obama helped get his opponent elected. This radical Muslim guy, Muhammad Buhari, has called for global Sharia law, has called for Sharia law across Nigeria at any cost. When Boko Haram went to mediate with the government, he was their mediator.
Hmm.
Obama sent David Axelrod to run his political campaign. Obama pulled military support from Nigeria's fight against terror and blocked Nigeria from getting help anywhere else. And the president was battered, and this Boko Haram guy took the presidency. And when he was elected, John Kerry went to visit him and flew to Sokoto to bow to the Sultan of Sokoto before he went to their capital. Hmm. So, like I said, a lot of hands in the cookie jar. Now, the Sultan of Sokoto was a brigadier general. He served in Afghanistan and Pakistan during the war when Nigerian fighters were caught alongside the Taliban. When he came back, the local jihad took on radical international elements, started using suicide bombs and IEDs and all these sophisticated tactics. And Al-Qaeda and ISIS have set up shop there. And now they're looting the minerals. The government says at least $9 billion a year that China is buying on the black market that's funding all this. So you got China completely complicit and caught in the act. You got Obama complicit and caught in the act. You got Great Britain complicit and caught in the act. And you got Al-Qaeda and ISIS headquartered there. So there's a lot going on. It's crazy.
Wow.
And this is the epicenter of it all. Yeah.
And when did Christians begin to be martyred, persecuted, etc.? When did that then begin?
When Obama pulled our military support and they imported, so the Libyans that were driven out by the Arab Spring there were recruited to come down to Nigeria by this outfit. Okay. And it was in 24. So the election to unseat this Christian president was 2014, and that's when it all started.
All right.
It was an election tactic, and so the Gwoza massacre, Chibok, the bring back our girls, all that stuff. It started raging and horrific. I know so many of the survivors, and the things they witnessed just are chilling, and it's still going. I mean, there was a point in time where Boko Haram actually inspired ISIS, and all those ISIS videos you saw, with the beheadings and stuff, that was actually sort of a pissing match. They were trying to one-up each other, Boko Haram and ISIS, but ISIS learned that from Boko Haram, the beheadings and the mass spectacle of killing Christians. And I know people that witnessed that whose husbands, whose fathers were killed in those things, whose children were killed. In fact, we have a church we've adopted that's up there that just the end of last year, they had some of their members went out to get food, got caught, and I got a video of them getting their heads cut off with dull axes, a recruitment video.
Yeah.
That's what's going on there. And it's been going on. It's 100%. How can I say this? The government's not complicit. The government is symbiotic. It is part of who the government is there. Right now in history, it's like this. It's 1940, and a journalist just discovered Auschwitz. Right. That's where we are.
Yep.
This isn't something sanctions can work with. This isn't something that diplomacy is going to solve. This is the front line of the kingdom come today.
It's so very interesting. So why do you think that, because that timeline goes with when I began hearing rumors, I probably began hearing rumors in 2016, 2017 about this. Why is it that you think that the media wants to act like that it is not happening? Is because everybody's in bed with it? What's the deal there?
How deep do you want to go? If you look at the narrative, the conflicting narratives in the world today, there's two primary drivers when it comes to this stuff. There's Israel, and then there's the UAE, the Emirates. And you look at influencers and who's paying who and the stories they tell. There's lobbyists for genociders. In fact, Tucker Carlson hosted a guy the other day, denied the genocide is taking place. This guy was purported to be a human rights attorney. What it wasn't said is he's a human rights defense attorney for dictators. It's like calling O.J. Simpson
Nice.
attorneys family violence specialists. Yeah, they've got
Oh,
O.J.
right.
Simpson. This guy that Tucker Carlson hosted as a human rights expert. And one of his past clients is a guy from Nigeria that they nicknamed the Butcher of Kaduna. And this Tucker Carlson's guest was his attorney.
Hmm.
And he's on there saying there's no genocide. So that's some deep, deep international PR voodoo that's taking place there. They've got lobbyists. And guess who's naturally aligned with them here is the Democrats. Trump comes out against it. Now the Democrats are, oh, it's not real. So they're parroting these talking points that I've been to the source of the talking points. I was there. I was going to be the patient zero for the talking points. I know what's going on. And to see these people stand up and start parroting these talking points here that these northern imams told me, it's horrible. But as you said, we're not there. You got to trust somebody. People
Yeah.
trust who they trust. They trust the narrative that makes them feel more comfortable. You know.
Wow. Okay.
That's what it comes down
So can you explain to people, because there might be people watching that don't quite know what Sharia law is. So they might be saying, I don't really understand what you mean. You mean they're just rando killing anybody that's a Christian,
to. Yeah.
or is it just religious, or is it this other thing? A lot of people don't understand that Sharia law is a in other words, it is a political and religious system together. They might not understand that. So, A, will you explain what Sharia law is, and then B, will you tell us that? Will you explain that Sharia law sometimes can also harm other people who aren't just Christians? In other words, there are other people
Oh
that are
yeah,
affected
yeah,
by
yeah,
this
yeah,
as
yeah.
well. Explain that to us, because there's got to be people
Absolutely.
knowing that don't know what that is.
Yeah. So Sharia law, and you know, we have a school in one of these camps. I run schools in these refugee camps. We have a school that serves mostly Muslim victims. Best that I've heard reported and I can see, it's about 80% Christian, but it's about 20% Muslims that. And so the methodology. So there's two things. There's the expansion. How do they expand? And then there's how do they govern. So Sharia law is how they govern. How they expand is through jihad. They'll go into a village. I'll give you an example, and this is well documented.
And explain to us what jihad is as well, please.
It's a holy war. It's an Islamic conquest.
Okay.
It's the fight to take Islam around the world, to raise the black flag of Islam in every city in the world.
Yes,
That's
and
jihad.
and not through changing hearts, but more
No.
like through a violent. Is it fair to say a violent conquest?
So let me tell you the methodology. So this is well documented. Like they'll have a checkpoint. They'll pull over a bus. They'll get everybody out. They'll separate the men and the women, the Christians and the Muslims. They kill the Christian men. They go to the Muslim men and say, "Join us or die." If they say, "We'll join you," they have them the Quran test, and then they have them pull down their pants to see if they're circumcised. And they kill all the other men, and then they sell the women into sex slavery.
Mm.
That's pretty much the methodology. They kill all the Christian men, the Muslim men either join or die, and the women are given as brides or sold into sex slavery. So that's how it manifests itself. And a lot of these killings, they think it's glorious to kill for Allah. They think it's glorious to kill an unbeliever.
Right.
In fact, I have a friend there, a mighty, amazing Apostle Paul figure who was a jihad leader. He was a cleric and a scholar, a Muslim scholar, the multi-generation who met Jesus face to face, and now he's a
Mm.
mighty evangelist. He's a serious Apostle Paul figure, and he says, Muslims and Christians can live peacefully side by side. But he said the jihad said their religious sense of fulfillment comes in their devotion. So the praying 5 times a day, just through the acts of the devotion, is their connection to God. He said a jihadi sees killing a Christian as the exact same as saying a prayer. It's an act of devotion to Allah.
Mm.
It's something Allah loves and rewards. Killing Christians, killing white Europeans, and killing anybody that stands in their way. is devotion for them, and so they glorify it. They make recruitment videos with 20 Christians lined up, and they're cutting their heads off with machetes, and yay Allah, and they're putting this online to recruit people, and people are traveling there to join them. That's what we're up against. So that's jihad. That's how it's expanded. Once it's settled, they have Sharia law. It's their legal / religious system. Think of the Dark Ages Catholic Church, but worse. So, for example, the whole honor killings and blasphemy killings. There's a woman not too long ago in northern Nigeria, a Christian little shopkeeper, and a Muslim guy. They have these little shops, a little entrance. A Muslim guy put down his mat to pray in front of her shop. She asked him to move, and so she ended up being hung after being convicted of blasphemy in Sharia court because she asked a guy to please pray a few feet over. That's Sharia law, the way it's practiced in northern Nigeria.
Great explanation. I've read a couple of books on the subject. I'm admittedly very unknowledgeable about it, but I have read a little bit of, I remember after 9/11, I believe it was Glenn Beck wrote a book called It Really Is About Islam, I think is what he called it. And so is it fair to say, because you just were talking about this Christian character that you said was sort of like an Apostle Paul type character you mentioned. So is it fair to say then that not all Muslims are what a lot of times is referred to radical Islam? And I know a lot of people that don't like it when you say radical Islam because they go straight to this Islamophobia thing. But I don't really know a better wordage for this. How do you separate these ideas? Do you separate these ideas so people watching can understand what we're talking about?
Yeah, so let me take it to the theological roots. According to this Isa al-Buba, he's this Apostle Paul type. Literally, he was persecuting. He was a jihadi that met Jesus, and he's a mighty man of God, irrefutable. Evangelist. He said, if a Muslim follows the Quran, they're peaceful. He says there's on top of that something called the Hadith. It's the layers of tradition and interpretation and rules and stuff. He said that's where the problem is certain portions and interpretations of the Hadith. He said if we just unite on the Quran, Muslims would be a peaceful people. But it's like Christianity. It's a little more distinct, but you got your Baptists, you got your Methodists,
Right.
For their Methodists kill people, So that's 100% of the people doing the killing are Muslims, but they're also killing peaceful Muslims.
Right.
And let me address the Islamophobia thing. That means to be afraid of Muslims. That is a very logical and healthy position to be in right now. They are, I'm serious, they're seeking to take over the world for Allah using any means necessary. When it's a civilized culture, they play nice and they smile and they'll partner with the gay rights people. But as soon as they get power, those gay rights people are being stoned to death. Literally, they will be stoned to death like they are in all the countries they control. You know what I'm saying? So there is, and Nigeria is the most visible. They've been operating there with impunity out of the public eye, so that's more blatant. I'm not saying all Muslims are this way, but there are people that are well-funded and very brutal that are making a lot of progress and taking over the world for Allah. And if you don't like what's happening in Nigeria, just keep quiet here because it's going to happen here if we're not careful. So, yeah, Islamophobia is a healthy thing. Don't be afraid of that title. You should be afraid of these people because they want to kill you.
So,
it is what it is.
Right. And this seems like an obvious statement, but I'm just verifying for everybody listening for me. So whether we're talking about what's happening in Nigeria, we're talking about ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, all of these groups would be lumped into this idea of jihad, radical Islam. We would lump that in together. That's fair to say, correct?
Yeah, and it's not, they don't just have local ambitions is the thing.
Right.
They've been, what ISIS was looking for a caliphate, a foothold where they could have an economy and a base and they could grow. We drove them out of there. They relocated to Nigeria. It's now called ISWAP, Islamic State West African Province, and they've adopted the 200-year-old caliphate there. So what they were trying to do in the Middle East, they've kept doing it. They've just relocated here, and now they've got more than $9 billion a year in mineral income, with potential to make it $1 trillion in minerals if they take over. This is their base. But if you look at their recruitment videos, which I don't encourage because they're horrific, but they start with this sequence where the U.S. flag goes down, the British flag goes down, all the major flags go down, and the black flag of Islam goes up. That is their design, their ambition, and that's what they're working to do here. But and there's a template for it. They come in large numbers, and then they little by little they grow, and the more they get established, they bring in Sharia law, and pretty soon they're in control. And they'll keep Christians alive, like in Nigeria, in the South, like a garden they can pluck from. It's like their herd of producers here, because that culture doesn't, but just destroys. But yeah, they have designs on global domination, and they're making progress towards it, including here. I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And this is one of the most important aspects of that I would like to ask you, even though it's difficult, because I think that not Christians, Americans, certainly American Christians, because of our culture, the way we've grown up, because of whatever you want to call it, enlightenment liberalism, or whatever you want to call it, our idea of freedom of religion, I think, in other words, sometimes we try to say that must be what other people also think.
Yeah.
And what I see happening, I shouldn't say what I see happening, what is happening all throughout Europe seems to be like Germany. Germany seems to be at the moment now doing things that actually kind of are pretty consequential against Christianity, while giving benefits to
and suicidal
Muslims.
as a nation. Yeah.
That's fair to say that. It seems the same
Absolutely.
in England to me as well. It seems like it's beginning to be quote unquote hate speech to say something against Islam, but not hate speech to say something against Christianity. For instance, I saw that Germany is shutting down their Christmas. If you go to one of my favorite things in Germany, every time I go there in the holidays, is they have these amazing Christmas outdoor festivals, and I hear that they're shutting them down. And some of that I've understood is because of the Muslim population. I see in America, some of this stuff is also on the rise here. And I think when you bring it up, Americans, because of our culture, say, hey, freedom of religion, everybody's the same. And we all know, or most of us know, at least a couple of Muslim people who we are friends with, who have never hinted that they want to do anything bad to us. But if you look at the trajectory of what's happened in Europe, and you look at what's happening even in America, as you said, there are now cities that are being overtaken really by Sharia law. Dearborn, Michigan's one that's been going on for about at least a decade that I know of. Is it fair to say that this actually is a concern, even if, in other words, even if it's only seems like a cultural move, it's still a very dangerous move for America, is it not?
Well, absolutely. And so, yeah, they're very polished, educated, well-funded people. When I was locked in the room with those three jihad imams from the north, they were nothing but smiles and charisma and they reason. I mean, they know how to talk. They got a lot of money. I mean, enormous amount of money. And they know how to play our Christian division against us, and our Christian, how can I say it? Oftentimes naivete, trusting, on our good intentions against us. And oh yeah, just freedom of religion. No, Sharia's law is not freedom of religion. America succeeded and became great because we were a melting pot. People had to come and assimilate here to the way we do things. We don't follow your Sharia law, you follow our law. You can have your culture, but it has to blend in. That's what made America what it is, and it's become a centrifuge instead, where it's all separated. But if we allow a different legal system to come in and operate, then that's an invasion by any definition of the word. fundamental to this, and you asked about this, there's an ideology that says it's okay, if not glorious, to kill somebody that disagrees with you. Does that sound familiar? I mean, that's what happened to Charlie Kirk, and people have celebrated it here. That is the heart of jihad. That is the heart of genocide. And it's not too many steps, really, from a culture tolerating that to mass genocide. The communism, the people over here on this side, that communists in history never have taken power in a country without genocide, without mass murder.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can dehumanize people and devalue their life based on their beliefs, it's really just one step away. People here don't realize how close we are to that.
Yep.
They think we're immune to it. I don't know why they think that. Because every culture on earth has succumbed to that. When China, this great developed country, when our youth were smoking weed at Woodstock, their youth were killing and barbecuing their professors.
Mm. And parents.
And those people are still here. They're still, CEOs and stuff, and we're not immune from it. And when you let that ideology, whether it's through Islam or whether it's through left-wing ideology, it's the same antichrist ideology. That's what unites it all. That says, I don't agree with you. Bye. Yeah. And that's it. And that's what Sharia law is. And when you let that is my way of seeing it. There's a foundation, there's our social contract that holds our government together. Free speech takes place within that social contract. That is outside of the social contract. There's no freedom to call on your murder because I disagree with you. That's not, even the founding fathers who wrote the First Amendment, they would tar and feather people who were outside of the social contract, right? They would shame people
Right.
that were British sympathizers. People that wrote the First Amendment did that. Okay, so we have the tools and the means, the legal grounds, and the moral imperative to protect our social contract and our civilization from this ideology, and we need to do that. And if not, we will die. Period. We just need to stand up for righteousness and say this will not enter our country. This will not enter our dialogue. We can't celebrate murder for thought.
Yes. Yeah, over the last 10 or 15 years, as the church in America has seemed to drift leftward, there's been more and more Christian evangelical leaders, even popular, in fact, I would say not even popular names, I would say a lot of the most popular names, began sort of, I would say, this is my opinion, shaming Christians like us because we didn't like the idea of this expansion to wanting to get more people from basically more Muslims in there and we see that with refugees that we also don't know where they come from, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of these Christian leaders began shaming us, saying that we weren't showing the love of Christ to people. We should want Muslims to come here so that we can, witness to them. And obviously, we love Muslim people. We do want to witness to them. What would you say to those type evangelical leaders about their, if they said that to you, what would you have to say to them, Mike?
Two things. First, if I saw a friend or anybody that was about to drink a cup of poison, I'd slap it out of their hand. Wouldn't you? I mean, if they weren't, you'd stop them. You wouldn't say, oh, you want to drink that? It's okay. Let me be your friend and tell me how it tastes, If we really believe what we believe and eternity's on the line, yeah, you do it as lovingly as you can. But if somebody's if a kid's getting ready to step in front of an 18-wheeler, you don't wring your hands and wonder how to be polite about it. You grab them and yank them out of the way. And we've lost that. Here's the other thing we've lost. First of all, the kingdom is not advanced through politics or not by might, not by power, right? The kingdom of God grows organically as we build a community of love and peace and fellowship of the Holy Spirit, and people are drawn to that. It grows that way. And that's why in ancient Rome, they couldn't stamp it out because they weren't trying to fight to advance it. They were just living it, and it's attractive. As Christians, if you live it, we have a monopoly on everything anybody's ever searched for in the history of the world. Behind every pursuit, behind every addiction, is a search for love and joy and peace and patience and gentleness and the fruits of the Spirit. And that's how you grow the kingdom, by manifesting the fruit of the Spirit. But you defend it with any means necessary. So if somebody breaks into my house and is going to threaten me and my family, I'm not going to sit and pray with the guy. I'm going to put a bullet between his eyes. I'm not going to miss a moment of sleep over it. Okay, because we have to be fierce in protecting those we love and the things that we value, that community of faith. I got no problem using force, political or otherwise, to defend and preserve and protect that. That's where I stand, and I believe that's biblical. I mean, you can ask one of these people that are hand wringers, let them in. Well, would you let them into your home in the middle of the night? A jihadi? Would you do that? No, they wouldn't. They'd let them go into somebody else's home. It's all talk. It's all virtue signaling.
Right.
They won't take them into their own house, but they'll make you feel guilty for not taking them into yours.
That sounds familiar. That sounds familiar.
Pull punches. I'm sorry.
No, I hear you. All right. So let me ask you this. I'm almost done because I know we're running out of time. When I look up articles about this, there's so much propaganda. It's insane. Some people listening might not even understand what you mean when you said they called you out to be a stooge. They might not understand that that's the same thing they did with Time magazine, did with Hitler, and they did it in communist countries all the time, just so people come back and say how amazing it is. In fact, Bernie Sanders used to do that with basically all the Cuba and everywhere he go. He was amazing. They all read and they always do this. And how many Christians do you think have been martyred throughout this time in Nigeria?
In the first 8 months of this year, it's been documented almost 7,100 the first 8 months of this year. And I know it's kept going. So it's got to be over 8,000 by now, just this year. It's spiked. The lowest number I've seen published is about 52,000 since 2014. I've seen numbers that are much higher than that. The even greater tragedy, if you can believe it, is there's 4 to 10 million peaceful, productive, wonderful, amazing Nigerian people who have been traumatically evicted from their homelands and forced to live with nothing. The government denies they exist, calls them beggars and criminals, and bulldozes their camps, and they threaten or pay off journalists to not even. They've purged it from their language. These people don't exist, and they die the most tragic, slow deaths. Amazing people whose only crime is getting in the way of radical Islam. 80% or more are Christian.
Wow.
Okay. And that's today. That's happening. That these people are living that way today.
Yep. And so, what do we do about it? What can everybody watching out there is like? I can't do anything about Nigeria. Is there anything to be done? Give me some kind of good news.
Okay. Yeah. So pray. This is a spiritual battle. If you know of a ministry, anybody doing work on the front line, support them. I could use that support. We have schools on the front lines. We're rescuing kids from the cycle of death. And I'll give you the web address if you'd be willing to post that. It's a nonprofit. We make a difference. But here, please talk about it, post about it, call your congressman up. Ultimately, it comes down to politics, and they measure the narrative, who's saying what. We can't keep quiet about this. If the world, after this attention is paid to Nigeria, if they turn away without doing anything, it's going to plunge into worse darkness than ever before, because they realize now they can get away with it. And it'll be apocalyptic, literally, there, and with grave consequences for the world. We must move the needle. We must take action. And since Trump's the one that said it, all the Democrats are against it, and all the liberal media. I mean, we got to fight this here and now with the narrative. Post about it, talk about it, tell your friends about it. And if you can, support the work on the front line. And,
I just wanted to say this real quick, because you just said to post about it. sometimes people would sort of say, oh, that's just, sometimes they call it slacktivism. Like you're not really doing anything, you're just posting. But when you post on social media, it gets people talking about it, and the more pressure there is on, in other words, our politicians can make a difference. And look at what happened when Trump said something. Look what happened when Bill Maher said something. People started learning, and that puts the pressure on them, because we could do something about this. America's a behemoth, so we could do something about that. And will you go ahead and tell us your website where people can go and find out how to support your schools?
Okay. Yeah, it's letusriseafrica.org. Let Us Rise, all strung together. letusriseafrica.org. It's Africa Arise is the name of the organization. Our schools are the Arise Academies. We have 15 people on full-time staff. We have 600 some odd full-time students that a lot of these kids were either saw their parents hacked to death or they were born in these camps, and that's all they've ever known. And this is where the jihadis recruit. They have without intervention, they have upwards of 60% chance of becoming radicalized themselves. And the testimonies we get are that these kids, they show up wanting to get guns and go back and kill. That's all they know. But after they have love and they get education, now they want to go back and rebuild. It's transformed. Just intervening with these kids' lives is changing the trajectory of the world from people wanting to go kill to people going to rebuild. That is how the kingdom is advanced right there. And we're on the front line of it, doing it every day.
Wow. This is one of the most fascinating conversations I've ever had. My world is being blown apart, and I'm sure all the people watching it are appreciative of you jumping on. Go keep doing good work, and we're going to help get the word out. Thank you for joining Cooper Stuff. Godspeed.
Thank you. God bless you.
Read the Bible.
Cooper Stuff.